Welcome to the Emotions with Ease podcast. I'm Jamie Glenn, an emotional wellness coach for families. And we have a guest today on the podcast. Her name is Christina Carpenter. And if you are local, you may know Christina. She is pretty well known in the home education, motherhood kind of communities because she has created some really, really meaningful communities in the area. And so I'm going to read her bio first, and then I'm going to let you know kind of what we're hitting today. Christina is a wife and mother of two dynamic girls and two lively boys. Together with her husband, she finds joy in curating family memories through travel and new adventures. A passionate advocate for home education and intentional family culture, Christina coaches mothers and hosts conferences for homeschooling moms, inspiring them to thrive with vision, purpose, and joy. A lover of beautiful books, she treasures the works of Jane Austen, relates to Amy March, and owns multiple copies of the Laura Ingalls Wilder series. Known for her love of fancy coffee and spicy Thai food, Christina believes that motherhood has been her greatest and most joyful adventure. So, in this conversation, we highlight what it takes to build and or cultivate meaningful community. This podcast is all about emotional wellness, right? Emotional wellness from a whole family perspective. And a really big part of that is doing life with the people in our home, but also doing life with the people outside of our home. And so today's conversation, we highlight like practical ways to get out of the house and build a community, build friendships, meaningful friendships in whatever season of life that you find yourself in right now. Motherhood can feel very lonely. It can feel very isolating. And I don't know the exact stat, but I think it's very well known that loneliness is on the rise across the board. And so my hope for this conversation and the reason that I reached out to Christina to ask her to come on here is because my hope is that, first off, as you continue to listen to this podcast and this podcast evolves and grows as a community, I hope that you can begin to feel a part of this community and connect with other people. And, whether that be through workshops that I offer or, the online community, Sacred Ground Coaching, I'm hopeful that you can start to feel like you're part of this because you are a part of this. And also, my hope is that after today's conversation, you have some really practical steps on next steps, next things that you can do to maybe reach out and send a text to a friend or reach out and say, hey, I'm going to the park for a play date. Who wants to join? Getting out of our comfort zone as parents can be really hard. It's so funny, but when my kids were little, they're 10 and 12 now, but like when we consistently went to the park, which we still do a lot, but like it was like every other day when they were little because like I had to get out of the house. We would encourage them, right? Like go ask her name, right? Like if they were like acting all shy with another kid on the playground, we would say and encourage them like go talk to her, ask her if she wants to play. And how many of us also then though like scrolled our phone or just, hid behind our coffee, our Starbucks drink and didn't reach out to the parent that was with the child, right? So, because it can feel very vulnerable and it is very vulnerable. And so, striking up conversations like that, it is not necessarily meant to be easy, but it is so fruitful. And so, my hope for this conversation is that it is inspiring for you. If you have meaningful friendships, awesome. Open your circle, make your table bigger, make your circle bigger. Who can you invite that might not be in your circle, but you can invite into the fold, right? Who maybe at church, doesn't maybe hang out with, like doesn't have a consistent play date or whatever. Like if you have a meaningful community, look for the mamas out there who don't, right? And who maybe are out there at the park or at church or at, the local library. Strike up conversations if that is your jam. And then for those of you who maybe aren't a part of a community, I really, really hope that today's episode gives you really practical tools and next steps to step out of your comfort zone and try to make some meaningful friendships, especially in this season of life. So I hope that this conversation is practical for you, and I hope that it's really, really helpful. So let's dive right in and listen to my conversation with Christina Carpenter. Christina, welcome to the Emotions with Ease podcast. It's so good to have you here.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited for this.
Oh, I love it. I'm so grateful that you said that you would come on here. Here's the deal. I reached out to you to ask you to come on to this podcast because you do such a great job at cultivating community. And we know as moms that community is such a huge part of just the emotional wellness journey. This podcast is called Emotions with Ease, and we talk a lot about getting stuck in different emotions. How do we help our kids? How do we help our co parents? How do we help ourselves get regulated? And community is one of those things that sometimes can be kind of put on the back burner a little bit, especially as we get so busy. So I wanted to have you on here to talk about community. So thank you so much for coming on here. And we're going to actually just dive right in because if you are local, and if you've been around here a while, you know that Christina hosts a motherhood conference, and you actually have one coming up. And it's all about, and I mean, I'm going to let you dive into it and tell us more about what it's all about. But I attended last year, and it was so encouraging and uplifting and just really, really practical workshops for moms in all different kinds of seasons. But I would love to know what inspired you to create this space, this community, this conference, and what kind of community are you hoping to build from it?
I love that question. It's kind of a big answer, so I'm going to kind of unpack it a little bit. So, for what inspired me to create it, honestly, it was something that I just felt like was God breathed. It was something that I feel like He just told me that this is what He wanted me to do. The funny thing with that is this is about to be my seventh conference. And I only was going to do one. I was always like only going to do one. And then somebody was like, "Oh, I can't make this one. I'll hopefully come to the next one." And I was like, "The next one." And here we are on seven. And I love it. And there's been so much that has evolved from it. I've grown so much from it, and the community, like you've said. It's just beautiful. So what honestly inspired me there is I just wanted to create a space for moms to be seen, to be heard, to reflect, and to be in community with other moms who are in the same season as them and a little bit ahead. So that way we can all just gather together in fellowship and learn together and be together and link arms on this motherhood and home education journey together.
Yeah, I love that so much. And you mentioned some pieces of like motherhood and homeschool education. So talk to us a little bit about what does that look like in your community? Like what does your community, who are some people that we would find in your community?
Do you mean like some of the speakers that you would find in the community?
No, I mean the community, like the attendees.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So you're going to find moms in all seasons. You're going to find moms who I've had women come who are expecting and they don't have any children that they're home educating at all. The conference is a little probably heavier on the home education side, but because we as moms, we are so dynamic in all of the things that we do. Our hands are just juggling all those different roles. It is really motherhood based. The motherhood and the home education side weave and blend together beautifully. So you're going to find moms, like I said, who are just expecting. You're going to find moms who have a bunch of littles. You're going to find moms with only one. You're going to find moms with 10. You're going to find moms that are who are coming as like support people for their daughters. I have particularly this one mom and her daughter that come every year together, and it is so sweet to see these moms coming to support their daughters who are now on this journey of motherhood and home education. And so you're just going to find people in all different seasons. You're going to find blended families. You're going to find people who are doing hybrid options of education, who are just thinking about homeschooling. And honestly, I've had some people who come who have children who are in public education too, and that's okay because this is a place where we can all come together, where we can all acknowledge that we're all just trying to do our best together and grow and learn together.
That's wonderful. And also just being able to see that from an attendee side, it is true. It's like it is a wonderful blend of people that are there. And like you said, it's so fun when you get in a room with other moms where you see the mamas that are literally just starting out, and you also see the mamas in the same row that have their kids are graduated from their home education or from public school, whatever, but their kids are grown, and so it is so fun to be in a room, and it really is pretty unique. At least I haven't been in a lot of rooms like that. Typically, you know conferences or workshops like that are more centered, like it's just by design, it's more seasonal, right? Like you're in a specific season. And so that is a really unique part of the community that you're building, which is really, really wonderful to see. So as you're talking, I'm like, yeah, that's right. All of that is so accurate. I love that. So, so many moms, no matter where they're at in their journey, say either out loud to other people or they might feel it. They feel alone because, man, motherhood can feel very, very isolating. It really, really can. When we're talking about just like being the general manager of all of the things, it can feel like, listen, I've just got all these tasks to do and all these little humans to raise, and I don't even have time. I don't have time to build community or, to cultivate friendships. But what have you seen, front and center, 7 years in? What do you see? What changes take place when people come together and find other moms on this journey, no matter where they are in the journey?
All right. Well, you're going to make me cry about this, but I'm reflecting on on myself of this too. So I'm going back and I'm seeing like being like a young mom, right? And I have two girls and two boys, and there was a season where a lot of my friends at the time only had girls. And I had boys. And I had one girl at the time, and then the two boys, and then the little girl is on the end. And so, as I'm reflecting back in that season, I had wonderful friendships, and they were such a support to me. But I will tell you, when I started making friends with people who were boy moms, there was something where it was just like, I see you. And there's something about building community with people who are walking something similar to you, and I think that that's really important when we are in community, is that we are looking for people who are in a similar season or have a similar dynamic, so that way we can bounce ideas off of them. And that way it's like, is this normal? Does your little boy do this? Okay, my little boy does this too. Does your little girl do this? Or, you know what I mean? And sometimes it's not always gender specific. I just mean in general, like different behaviors, or how are you handling this when your child does X, Y, and Z. And so I think it's just really important for people to reach out and not be isolated, because my whole point to what I'm trying to say is even though I had great friendships, I didn't quite have friendships that were filling that need, and that made me feel, I don't know if isolated is quite the right word, but like I didn't feel like I was completely understood. Does that make
Mm,
sense? By even some of
yeah.
my friends, even though I had that community. And so that is really, really opened my eyes to really recognize that, we need people in all different seasons to be able to pour into us, and for us to feel seen and help us process our own dynamic and our own experiences and our own reactions and regulations. And
Yeah.
so, go ahead.
No, continue.
So I've seen when I'm coaching that because I've had such a unique dynamic, like I said, I have two girls, two boys. I've had three in diapers. I have a few that are neurotypical. I have a few that are neurodivergent. I have a blended family. My oldest is from my previous marriage. And so just bringing that all together and having moms come to me and being able to sit in front of them and be like, hey, I see you in this season, or I see you in this season. And even if I don't quite have something the same, it's just something about having our hearts connect and be able to be like, you're not alone in this. And I understand and I empathize. And I think that empathy goes really far, for just in general everybody's mental health. And I'm sure you see that too with the line of work that you're in too.
Yeah, for sure. It's reminding me when you said specifically like, I see you, I see what you're going through, or I see how hard you're working, or I see how hard it is to have two babies in diapers right now. Just that moment of saying, I see you. A couple of weeks ago, this is so funny. It's probably been a couple of months now. I sent out a newsletter, and like the title was, what parenting tip I've learned from my burn boot camp trainer. And it was like my most opened newsletter of 2025, which is so funny to me.
That is
That
so
the,
fun.
but it was about that. It was about how that there's a specific burn boot camp trainer that consistently will say, calls your name out and literally just says, like, I see you, fill in the blank. I see you, Mike. I see you, Jamie. I see you, Christina. And not in like a weird way, but like in a like, hey, I see you working over there doing that station. And it's so encouraging. And my point was that as parents, what we water grows. And so, so many, like, are we looking for what our kids are doing well? And do we say, hey, I see you taking a chance by, starting a new sport, or I see you really working hard on your math. I see you helping your little sister in this area, whatever it is. So the same is true though for adults. That's what's so fun about like what I get to do. I'm working with kids, right? And parents,
Right.
but it all aligns because it's all about human connection.
That,
So
exactly.
it's so fun to hear you say that because it's just a good reminder for me and those of the, those listening who opened up that newsletter. It's a good reminder for us as well that we as humans also need that validation and for someone just to literally bear witness to this is the season of life that I am in. I don't need any advice. I don't need any coaching perhaps, but it is so healing to see another person just look at you and say, I see you. I see you working hard. So I love that.
Yeah, it's just the acknowledgement too. I had dinner with a friend and her husband the other day. We went to their house, and they actually have the same dynamic that we have. They're just 10 years behind us. So like
Okay.
we're sitting with all of our teenagers and they have all of their babies. And my kids are playing with their babies. And there were some things that they were saying that they're like, they're also my age too. So they're my age with littles. So that's also a different dynamic. But they were just like, oh, I can't wait for, X, Y, and Z. And I was like, it's really funny. I love the season I'm in. I do. But I'm also looking at your season and I'm like, I just want to snuggle that baby. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's, I don't know. It was just this really unique moment of like human connection, as you said, to be able to like, it was like I was looking in a mirror at the same time. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? I don't know. It
Yeah.
was, it was just really cool.
That is it. It's wonderful to be around people and have those moments like that. I think, gosh, now I'm blanking on maybe it was Elizabeth Gilbert. It was an author, and she said she always tries to surround herself with surfers, people who are younger than her, and sages, people who are older than her. And
Mm.
I really, I love that mentorship mentality of the community that you're building, the conference that you have, um, the book club that you offer, like all of those opportunities are really for women to come alongside women that are younger, right? And that I can offer some encouragement. And then also women who are older and farther down the road than I am, maybe like older chronologically, but also maybe their kids are just older. Um,
Right.
it's so helpful to get a picture to, kind of get a little bit of perspective of like, oh, okay, there's where I'm going. Because sometimes when you're in the weeds of it, sometimes it can be really difficult to be like, I can't even envision what 5 years down the road looks like.
Hmm.
How often do you do that? Do you do dinner like a lot with people? Like how we're talking about how you have built community. I'm throwing you a left pitch, but we're
Right.
talking about how you have built community, but thinking through, let me formulate this into a question. Let's think about the mom who is like, you know what, it has been on my heart to build some community, but I don't even really know where to start. You just mentioned, having dinner with somebody, but like, what are some practical things that a mom can do maybe to get that ball rolling, if like just in her heart it's stirring right now and she's like, you know what, I am feeling a little bit alone, and what Christina is talking about sounds pretty great. What are some practical things that mom can do?
Okay, I love this question. Before I answer it, though, I want to tell you the girl that I had dinner with actually started out, she was at one of my workshops. And then she was like, how do I become a client? And then she became a client. And then now our families are friends. And
Oh,
so
how
it's funny.
fun.
So she actually moved away and then came back. And so we've just stayed friends. And so I just really adore her. But to answer your question, I think before you go searching for a community, I really feel like there's a few things that you have to do first, because I feel like sometimes we can be so like, oh, I want this, and we can like almost just be casting a wide net, or we might just be reaching for something. And so I think you first need to ask yourself, what does community look like for you? Like, what does that mean? Because we all have different unique temperaments and personalities and needs. So what does that look like for you? Like maybe community is being like, I'm okay with going to a book club once a month. That feels good for me. Or maybe it's like, I would like a singular best friend where we do X, Y, and Z. Or maybe it's like, I'd like a small group of people and we hang out once or twice a month with our kids. Like you need to decide what is good for you, because that will help you find other people who are also looking for that same type of thing. And the other thing that I would say to that is manage your expectations, because depending on what season you are in and what somebody else is in, that is going to, expectations, managing those are going to be huge. A lot of times when we are feeling upset or resentful, or if there's conflict, most of the time we will find, whether this is with our spouses or our children or even our friends, it's unmet expectations. You thought X, Y, and Z was going to happen. And so when you are building that community with a maybe a group of people or a friend, just managing your expectations and being really clear about what you expect from them. And I don't mean, it doesn't have to sit down and you don't have to like write a contract out with somebody, but just, having conversation with people and kind of seeing where they're at too and what would be a good fit. And to be honest, I have friends that I see weekly, and then I have friends that I see monthly, and then I have friends that I see quarterly. And so sometimes that's just like, I know that's their season. I'd like to see them more, but that's just how that looks. And so just knowing your season and defining community and managing your expectations, I think is huge before you jump into anything. And as far as like looking for places, honestly, if you are local in the Springfield area, we do have a lot of community opportunities. I host monthly book clubs, for example. I know that there's the Merry Crunchy Christmas coming up. I don't know if are you familiar with the Merry Country Christmas?
No, tell me more.
It's just it's put on by another mom, and I love her heart too. And she just felt like she wanted to start community with people who have a similar mindset in more of the crunchy world. Do you know what crunchy means? Okay, yeah, more of
Yes,
the
but you know what? But let's not assume that everyone knows what that means. So how would you define it?
I would define crunchy honestly as kind of like a spectrum. If you maybe dabble a little bit more into some of the more natural minded health applications, then that might be you. But it's such a spectrum. Like you can have people who are very over here and very over here. I find myself somewhere probably in the middle. But she wanted to create community for that. So she's putting on something called the Merry Country Christmas. This is the third year in a row that she's doing it. And it keeps growing, and people are coming and they're connecting with others. So just looking for opportunities in the community like that. Like I said, like book clubs, or if you are home educating, maybe looking for other co-ops or even social co-ops. I've even seen people put it on like Facebook groups and be like, hey, I'm a stay-at-home mom. I have a 2 and a 4-year old boy and a girl, and I would love to meet up with some people, once a month. Anybody interested? And like people will reach out. Now, you might not find your people immediately that way, but you eventually
Yeah,
will find your people. And that's okay too. There is a process with this. It doesn't
for
mean
sure.
just because you don't connect or click with everybody immediately, that doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you or anything wrong with them. Sometimes people are just not, it might just not be a good fit, and that's okay. And that is
Sure.
actually something that I have learned just in general. Sometimes seasons of friendship can be very seasonal, and it doesn't mean that that was any less of a season if it was short or if we're no longer friends, sometimes it's just proximity. Like when you've gone to
Yes.
church with somebody and maybe they moved away, or maybe you guys go to different churches, or maybe you guys were in like a school setting together and maybe somebody chose a different educational option. It doesn't mean that that season was any less just because it maybe came to an end. There are seasons to everything, and you can still find the good in that. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense. It makes total sense. I'm going to go back to your expectation thing because I think that that's a really important piece of it that not a lot of people talk about. Just managing your own expectations of what I'm like, what I am looking for in a friendship in this season of my life, but then also being very honest about here's how I am going to show up as a friend. Like, here's what I can do as a friend. Um, One way in which I do that, and I learned the hard way, I'm a horrible texter. Like, I will text someone and be like, "Oh my gosh, how are you doing? How is life after the surgery or whatever." I check in on people. I'm very diligent about checking in on people, but then once they respond, I am like, "Oh good, I'm glad they're okay." And then I like move on, right? And
Yes.
so I hurt some friends. Like some friends would had, came to me. This has been a couple of years ago, but a girlfriend came to me and was like, "Hey, it really hurts my feelings when I text you and it's like you are MIA for 3 weeks. And then all of a sudden you're like back, you're texting me, you follow up with your text message." So I have proactively started because also one of the values for our family, like I'm not on my phone just a ton. Now I am an average American, so I'm on my phone more than I would like to be. But one of the values for me as a mom, I want to be present. And so I'm not willing to change that piece of me, but I am willing to say proactively, "Hey, if you text me, you might not get an answer for like a week. So if you need me, call me." I will proactively say that now because I know that that is the way that I show up as a friend. So anyone out there, if you need me, don't text me. Always call. If you need me, call me. Don't text me. So, but I love that idea of managing your own expectations for other people and also really being okay with this is how I'm going to show up as a friend in this season of life.
Yeah, and I actually think that's really important too. The word season of life is so important because when you have people who might be in this season, whatever it looks like, they might be somebody who normally texts back quickly or wants to get together,
Mhm.
and now they can't. You know what I mean? And so
Yeah.
having grace for them, or if it's you in that season, having grace for yourself and others having grace for you during that season, I
Yeah.
think is really important. One of my longest friendships, we were going on 18 years, and there was a time where we were together almost every single day. And then as our kids have gotten older and the dynamic started to shift, it would be more of like 3 to 4 times a week. And then we had we go to different churches and have our kids are also different seasons. And it went down to like 1 time a week. And then for a while, it was like, we aren't seeing each other. Like, I mean, to go from doing life with somebody like that every single day to, this gradual shift. I mean, we don't love it, but it is the season that we're in. And so now we both are really intentional to carve out the time. We have a few hours on this one day where both of our children are at a program. And so like, that's like our day, and we try to protect that, but we're totally cool. Like if she has some work that comes up or I'm writing a book. So if I need to get a little, like if that's the time where I'm like, "Hey, can I get a few hours in the morning to write before we go grab lunch or something?" But I think the investment in being able to give grace to others is really, really important. And I love that your friend came to you. I think that
Mhm.
is so
100%.
important. She came to you and then
Mhm.
you responded with, "Hey, I'm sorry." And then you changed your behavior. Like that is
Mhm.
huge.
Mhm. For sure. It shows a lot of emotional maturity on her part. It would have been super easy for her to just be like, "You know what? This friendship isn't working for me," and bounce out, right? So
Right.
it showed a ton of emotional maturity on her part. And I'm so grateful for it. For her pointing it out, because truly, I mean, it was a blind spot for me, right? And also, like, I'm not even thinking about how that's coming across, right? Like, I'm just texting in the middle of my day or whatever. And so I was
Also,
really
it might be a
grateful for
blind
that.
it might be like that friend might not have been okay with it, but another friend might be. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's
Right.
okay too. Just being like, hey, and it's okay for us
Mhm.
to be like, hey, I don't really love this. So
Yeah.
I just love how that whole situation was resolved. I think that, like you said, I
Yeah.
think it's emotional maturity and regulation
Mhm.
on everybody's part there.
Yeah, for sure. So speaking of that, of, emotional regulation, emotional maturity, when we're doing life with people, no matter the ages, we can talk about littles all the way to bigs and adults. Their life gets messy, right? Relationships get messy. There can be hard feelings. There are emotional struggles, maybe within the friendship, maybe with that, outside of the friendship. But either personally for you or how have you seen it done well within your community? What are some practical ways that moms can support one another when life gets hard?
Okay, I also love this question. So, just to clarify, if we are walking into this situation, understanding what community means for us and defining that, if we are walking into this situation, also managing our own expectations and having grace for others in their season as well. And I think a practical way that we could do this is by honestly asking others what they need in that time. So, if they are
Mhm.
struggling in a situation with life, just genuinely ask them, what do you need from me right now? And if they tell you something that you can't give, you need to be able to be clear and say, I would love to be able to do this. I can't quite do this, but I can do this. And if it's something relationship wise, like if you guys are struggling with each other, I always say that I want to be the friend that that I would want. So I always try to have my response be, what would I want them to say to me? Because that can sometimes be hard, because sometimes we want to come at somebody and be like, well, I didn't mean this and this and this. But I think always kind of stepping back and be like, would I want someone to say this to me? Would I feel heard or validated if somebody said X, Y, and Z? And so I think arming yourself with that mindset in friendship and community is really important. And then just to circle back to the asking them what they need, sometimes that comes down to love languages. Maybe they're like, I really just don't know what I need right now. Maybe you can either, if you already kind of know how they feel loved, maybe you can pick a love language and do something for them. Or maybe it can just be like, what is it that you do to show love? So maybe if you're a gift person, maybe you drop something off on their porch. If you're a quality time person, maybe it's like, hey, can we sneak away and go grab some coffee during this time? If you're a words of affirmation person, maybe you're texting them, you know what, you are doing such an amazing job. I know the way that you handled this with this X, Y, and Z, and with your son, I know that this can be difficult, but you inspire me. So maybe it's things like that, just pressing in and using those 5 love languages to really love on your friends, and to really invest in them.
That's a really good reminder. I haven't really ever thought about love languages with friends. I love that. That's a great reminder. Like I always my brain is always love languages with your kids or your spouse, but it is true with friends as well. That's a great look at you, Christina. What a great practical thing to do.
What's funny is my best friend is actually not a gift person, but I actually do like to give gifts. Um, and so I know she likes them from me, but I know that that's not how she feels loved from me. Like she wants me to spend time with her. And that's how I feel loved too. But one of my things is like, hey, I saw this and it made me think of you. But I know that if I were to only do that, that would not satisfy our relationship. You know what I mean? She's like, okay, this is a very lovely gift, but when are you going to make time for? You know what I mean? So I think
Mhm.
just being aware of how your friends feel loved and feel invested in is really important long term.
Yeah, for sure. When we're talking about just messy life and, doing life with one another, my mom passed away in May and she was very sick for the last month and I basically like lived at the hospital with her. Like one day my kids came home and I was like, "Hey, I got to go to the hospital with May." And they barely saw me for like 4 weeks straight. And obviously that was so difficult for them and Justin did a phenomenal job, but I am telling you, our community of friends
Mm.
loved on us so well and so practically. I could cry, but I'm not going to right now. But they were so practical in the way of like what you would typically think. I had a couple of friends who made us freezer meals and literally didn't didn't even coordinate with me, just knew our code, our garage code. So then one night I got home very late from the hospital and our freezer was just full
Oh
of
man, so
freezer
sweet.
meals. I know. And another friend texted us. I'm just thinking of like, there's so many stories, but practical. No, and here's the deal. I understand and I know that grief and death is it's totally different for everyone, but everyone always does say like don't say like how can I help because they don't know. And I don't know how my friends got that memo, but they were awesome. Like they would say like hey, how can we help? But then it was like really practical like here are your options. You can do this this and this. Choose what you want me to do for you, right?
Right.
Um and they loved our kids so well. Like one friend was like, "Hey, I have 2 hours on Thursday night. Can we pick up your girls and tell me exactly what they want to do?" And I'm like, "Oh my gosh," because as a mama, that is just my mom
Yeah.
heart broke for them because it was such a hard season for them. And they just like came, picked them up, and then took them to Dairy Queen, and then McAllister's, and then they just ate all that they wanted to eat that night. But things like that that were just so practical.
Mhm.
Um, so when you say like think about other people's love language, and if you don't know, to your point, use your own or just pick one. Just pick a love language and then practically meet a need. Now, I say that, and some people might be like, that would have been the worst for me during my grief journey. I'm just speaking from my experience, but our friends, they stinking showed up, and
Mhm.
I am forever grateful for that. And here's the deal. Um, it's because I'm going like so way off course here, but our pastor has said frequently, like, hey, you gotta dig the well before you're thirsty.
So true.
Okay, so when I say that about community, do you care to kind of like riff on that? Like, what are your thoughts on that of like digging the well before you are thirsty when it comes to community? And
The
do you
hard
even like that? You might not like that quote around that idea. So riff in whatever way you want to.
Okay, so as far as the ideology behind that, I actually think that that is brilliant. So what is that unpacking that what that's saying is you need to invest in a relationship and you need to have relational equity before you are empty, right? So that's what that's saying. But sometimes we are already empty when we are
Mhm.
reaching for friendships. And so that's why I was trying to say managing your own expectations, defining community and all of that is super important, right? So if you already have all that and if you're already thirsty, that's still okay. You can still invest in other people. But I think to the point of that is digging the well, doing the hard work, right? When we're digging, we're not just like, you're not just like barely flinging up dirt. You're like, this is hard work. This is sweat
Mhm.
equity, right? And
Mhm.
like, again, with my several of my best friends that I've been friends with for over 10, 15 years, like there's a lot of sweat equity in there. And I've invested in so much, like they're not getting away that easy. You know what I mean? Like, there's an emotional investment in that. Um, and so I do think that that's true in investing in people before you're 30, if you can help it. But again, sometimes
Mhm.
we're walking into seasons and that's just where we're at right now. And that's okay. Because a lot of times when we are in that, we'll also find somebody who's thirsty and then we can dig the well together while and help fill each other up as well.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so true. It's so true. Okay, so let's talk about really quickly, let's talk about the mom who's feeling that way, who's feeling like, "Hey, I am pretty empty right now." And um that can be for a myriad of reasons, right? So that mom that is in that situation right now, she's like, "I'm empty and my well is dry." And she's local. What could she do to take some next steps to get plugged into either your community or even another community that you're a connector? Has anyone told you this? One of your gifts is connecting. You do a really great job of connecting other people and other groups. You just do a really great job with that. So what could be her next practical step if she's like, listen, I've got a baby at the house. but I got to get out of here. I'm going to bring my baby with me. And we're just going to sit in community somewhere. Like I am going to meet people. What is her next step?
That's a very loaded question because there's a lot that goes into that, but I would honestly say that there is going to have to be intentionality on, like, if you were on your I'm acting as if you were on if you were her on your part. There is going to be intentionality there. That is going to be something that you might have to be uncomfortable. You might have to do this for a while before you find the people that are your people, and that might look like joining a local MOPS group, which is, I think, Mothers of Preschoolers. I think that's what that stands
Mhm.
for. It might be joining a church. It might be joining a life group. It might be going to the gym. I know there are a lot of women who like to go to like the YMCA where they have like childcare. I'm sure that you spoke of Burn Boot Camp. I'm sure there's some ladies there that you've really connected
Mhm.
over those types of things. It might be going to book club. I've had somebody come to me. Actually, this month will be 2 years that I started the book club here. And
Exciting.
I know it's so exciting. And I can't believe it went by so fast. I mean, time
That's
flies when
fun.
you're reading good books and being in community.
Mhm.
But I had a mom come to me and she was like, I was feeling so lonely and I didn't know anybody. And, I was like, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to go to book club. And now, you know what? She doesn't ever miss. And when she's in there, she used to be so quiet. And now she's practically running the show, not in a um, taking over, but in a way that she's so comfortable
Yeah.
and confident. And she's honestly brilliant. So I love it when she talks. I'm like, yes, say all the smart things. You're so wonderful. So it might be doing things like that. It's just like finding something. It could literally be a different type of class. And you know what? If you don't know some of those things, feel free to DM me. Or you know what? It might even be that you might need to talk to somebody in like a counseling setting first to kind of unpack some of these things. And so maybe even talking with you or with another type of counselor to kind of process these things before you start reaching out to friendships, because some things can be really heavy that you might need to process before you're unloading those on friendships too, because that sometimes
Sure.
can happen. Um, so yeah, so reach out into the community, find what you're looking for. And for those people who do have it in their margin, if you do not see what you are looking for, create it. If you do not see what you're looking for, create it. And honestly, there's a lot of hard work with that, but honestly, the fruit is sweet too. Like with book club, I just knew that I wanted to read these books and I wanted to talk about them. And so if nobody comes, that's okay. I still read the book and I will sit in the room all by myself because I rent out a room each month for this, and I will just eat my own snacks and drink my coffee and but people come. I
Right.
put it out there and people come. So if
Mhm.
you want something specific, do it, create it.
It's a great reminder. And book club is getting into a book club is such a great way to jump into a community. Some of the best friends that I have met have been through book clubs over the
Mm-hmm.
years. So that is a really fun way to do it. And another really practical thing that as you were talking, I was thinking about when you were like, just offering some of the different ideas. Our library system is phenomenal here. I
Mm,
feel like our library system is like a big city library system. It is such a good system. It's just such a great. They offer awesome programs. But my point is that they offer these quarterly, like they call them bookends, but you know what I'm talking about, those magazines, and it says like all
yeah.
their offerings. Have you ever looked in there, Christina? There's like literally every single day of the week at any time of the month, you could go to one branch and there's going to be like a knitting class or
Yes.
a crochet class, whatever, or like a writing class. So I get on on those. I get really excited. Like I circle, like I'm such a nerd. But when they come out, I open them up and then I circle like the dates that I can go to and I hit maybe 20% of them. But it's so fun because you meet new people. A lot of times you can learn a new skill, but that's a really practical and fun thing to do. And you can time that around nap time. Like you can say, like, okay, I'm looking for this time of day because
Right.
they offer so many options when you really look across all the branches. There
Mhm.
literally is something to do every single day at one of the branches. So that's really fun.
And that's one of those things too, though, that I'm going to I'm going to hold your hand when I say this, friends, is that sometimes we want to do these things and then we're like, well, and then we start making excuses and we're like, well, I can't because of X, Y, and Z, or maybe it's hard, or like, I'll have to carve out time, or my husband will have to watch the kids, or I might have to drop the kids off with grandparents or a friend. But I'm telling you, friends, and again, holding your hand, do it though. Do it, because it might be hard now, but these experiences are life-giving. These are life-giving experiences to get to try different things and to have conversations with other people, and just create depth in your life.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, we're going to land the plane
All
with
right.
a couple questions, okay?
Sure.
So I ask every person that's on the podcast, what is an emotion that you're getting stuck in? Okay. So we talk about on this podcast how emotions are like waves, they're just energy in motion. Our job is to release them. No matter what
Right.
the energy is, you just release it, right? Or what the
Yeah.
emotion is, you release it. But when you look at it through the lens like that, then by definition, there might be some emotions that you feel more stuck in. Like, I can't move out of this emotion, right? So that's question number one. What emotion are you getting stuck in the most often as a mama? Number two, what is a go to regulation tool that you're using right now?
Okay, so I don't know if this is completely what you're looking for, but this is the only thing that comes to mind for me and in my specific season, apart from obviously being a woman and having lots of different emotions at different times of the month. Depends where you catch me, right? But I would say that the thing that I'm feeling the most right now is I can't tie an emotion to it, so I'm just going to tell you the word. It's this
Yeah.
like feeling of like bittersweet, because I'm going to try not to cry about it. I'm fine. I'm fine, really. Um, I have a daughter that is 18, and she's in that college type of time, and then I have a son that's in ninth grade and he's in high school, and then I have another son who's in junior high, and then my baby girl, she's in elementary. And so I feel like I like time is just going by so fast. It is
Mm,
going by so fast, and so I catch myself um just kind of being like, oh my goodness, like I want to make the most of all of these moments, right? And so I feel
mhm.
like when I start feeling dysregulated, the feelings that I'm getting with that are like, oh my, am I making the most of my time, right? Am I
Yeah.
making the most of my time?
Yeah.
And so then I have to coach myself. I actually have another client that does this too, and her kids are really little, and I want to be like, you're actually fine, like they're fine. Mine are adults. No, I'm just kidding. Seriously though, but um and so I just have to remind myself, one, that there is no time that is wasted, honestly. Like being with your children, life is actually made up of a lot of beautiful but mundane moments. It really is. But looking for that extra sparkle in it,
Mhm.
practicing gratitude, practicing looking for truth and goodness and beauty, meditating on Philippians 4:8, like what is good, what is noble, what is beautiful, what is true, searching those things out. And then the last thing is being intentional to add some of that sparkle, because sometimes it's already there.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's just as simple as like the Christmas trees lit up and you have your coffee, and I put whipped cream on mine. So my coffee and my whipped cream, and it was snowing the other day and everybody was like having a good time, right? That was a good moment that I was really present in, right? That was
Mhm.
a little bit more of an organic moment because it was just kind of life. But sometimes it does create where I have to be intentional to create the memories that I want to create. And so I would say the tools that I'm using for that to break it back down would be to practice being present, practice gratitude, search for truth and goodness and beauty, and being extra intentional to add a little bit more of that sparkle and create the memories that I want to have. Because when my kids are older, all we'll have is memories. That's all we'll have,
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so I just want to make sure that I can, have the best memories to look back on and laugh at. And sometimes the memories that aren't even great end up being great later. Be like, remember
Yeah.
when that happened? You know what I mean?
100%.
And so,
100%.
yeah, that's what I'm doing right now.
I think that is such a great those are such great reminders because we are recording this in December.
Mhm.
And I think it's really easy. I love the word that you use for sparkle. Deb Dana says glimmer, like really allow your nervous system to delight in these little glimmers during the day.
Mhm.
And I love sparkle as well. That just the word for that is great. And I think it's really great. It's a great time to really identify what your sparkle looks like because it's
Mhm.
very easy in December to look on Pinterest, look on Instagram, look at everyone else's feed and be like, oh, that looks real sparkly. Like I want to do that, right? Um,
Mhm.
that can kind of be the vibe of December of like fitting it all in. But it's such a great reminder. At least that's what I'm taking away from your answer of like, okay, after this podcast, I want to really identify really what are those moments of glimmer that are meaningful to me? What are those moments of sparkle that are meaningful to me as a mom, meaningful to our family? And then how can I put those in the calendar? And also, to your point, to remember to be present in those moments when, like I'm thinking of like I was at a mom co group this morning and I was talking to a mom about going to Bass Pro to see Santa. And that can be very like, okay, we got to get in line. We got to do this. Like, get your picture taken, blah, 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 blah. And then you totally miss the moment of just
Right.
all of it. Right. So, really reminding yourself of like, be where your feet are. Like, I ask myself so much, like, okay, what time zone are you in, Jamie, right now? Because all the time I'm in the future, I'm in a totally different time zone. And so, what time zone are you in? Present tense, present time zone. That is where the meaning is. That's where purpose is. That's where the sparkle is. So, what a great, what a great reminder, especially during this time of year. So, thank you for that.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad that that's
Wonderful.
helpful. I'm just, trying to regulate myself.
Aren't we all? Aren't
Yes.
we all? All right.
Yes.
So, the very last question, what can somebody do to be a part of all of these different things that you've got going on? Like we've mentioned book club. You also just barely mentioned that you're writing a book. What?
Oh
That's
yeah.
exciting.
I've actually it has now split into two, which has now come to like five or six books, but the main one that I'm writing is called Authentic Joy in the Journey. And I'm kind of reformatting that and I'm very, very excited for it.
That's wonderful. I'm super excited for that. So somebody's listening, maybe they're new to you, new to your community. What is their next step? How do they get involved? How do they get more of you in their life?
Okay, that is super sweet of you. But okay, if you want more of me in your life, I'm literally everywhere. So you can find me on Facebook under Authentic Join the Journey or Bloom and Blossom. If you are on Instagram, it's Authentic Join the Journey or Bloom and Blossom Conference. And if you are on Facebook and you want to be in the Bloom and Blossom community, which is where I post a variety of things, sometimes it's inspiring, sometimes it's funny, a lot of times it's like your podcasts or other people's podcasts or great deals that you might find from like the Peaceful Press or something like that. Um, Definitely join the Bloom and Blossom community. Oh, and I also post the book clubs there too. I post them
Right.
usually at the beginning of the month or like a week or so before the month. So you'll know what we're reading, when and where.
Great, 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 great. And also, if you're on Facebook, just get in that group no matter what, because there's other moms in there and they're posting, commenting. And so it's another great way to cultivate some meaningful relationships. So that's great. Christina, I'm so grateful that you did the thing that was called, that you felt called to 7 years ago. I'm so grateful that you did that and you continue to produce great content and make meaning help women make meaningful connections with one another and cultivate community. We joked at the beginning before the podcast started that everyone asks you about community. Everyone
Thank
asks you
you.
to talk about community, and that is because you do it so well. So
Well, thank you.
I'm grateful to have you in the 417 area, and I'm grateful that you came on the podcast today.
Oh, well, I'm grateful for you too, friend. And guys, just in case you guys didn't know, Jamie is also going to be a speaker at the upcoming Bloom and Blossom conference in February for the Evergreen retreat. So if you're interested in that and hearing more from her in that realm, in that community, you can also go to www.christinacarpenter.org and look up the Evergreen retreat and grab your tickets.
That is so exciting. And I'm super pumped for that. And you moved to like a retreat kind of feel
Yeah,
this round.
I like change. I like change.
I
So yeah,
love it.
I'm
I
super
love it
excited
so much. And
about
I'm
it.
super, super excited about that. So, yes, for sure, grab your tickets to that because it's going to be really, really fun. And what a wonderful way to create some meaningful memories with other moms
Yeah.
and to cultivate some friendships. So, that's
Yes.
wonderful. What a great next step.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Christina.
Thank you. See you later.